I never imagined my humble dishwashing would catch the eye of a millionaire chef. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was just another evening, the kitchen bustling, steam fogging the air like a scene from a twisted movie. My hands trembled as I scrubbed greasy plates, the water hot enough to sting. I could barely see through the haze, every clatter of pots echoing in my ears, weighing me down like an anchor that I was just a dishwasher. Just a girl trying to survive in this chaotic world. My dreams, like the bubbles swirling in the sink, felt fragile and fleeting. There was a heaviness in my chest, a longing for more. I often imagined a life beyond this kitchen, a stage where I could shine. But here I stood, heart racing, breath shaky, surrounded by pots and pans. The clock ticked on, each second a reminder of my place in the world. My mother's voice echoed in my mind, how she'd tell me stories of grand feasts and the joy of cooking. I missed her. The silence at home after her passing was deafening. I wanted to make her proud, to show her I could be more than this. Then, just as the thought struck, a figure appeared through the mist. Tall, commanding. The room seemed to hush, a collective breath held tight. It was him. The renowned millionaire chef. His presence was magnetic, pulling the attention of every chef and server in the room. He surveyed his empire, a glint of curiosity in his piercing eyes, searching that I felt the weight of his gaze land on me. My heart pounded as if it would burst. My hands froze in the water, dripping suds sliding between my fingers. Did he see me? Really see me? Or was I just another blurry face in a sea of workers? The air crackled with tension. He started to walk towards me. The crowd behind him seemed to blur, murmurs rising in a crescendo. Who is that? I heard whispers. She's just a dishwasher. My legs quivered, a lump forming in my throat. Just a dishwasher. My heart sank as the words wrapped around me like chains. And then, in that moment, everything shifted. He stopped mere feet away, staring directly at me. A moment suspended in time. My breath hitched. His lips parted, but before he could speak, a loud crash rang out. A stack of plates shattered, shattering the silence and my dreams in an instant. Gasps filled the air, shock on every face. As everyone scrambled to clean up the chaos, he turned back to me. His expression was a mix of intrigue and challenge. I need someone I can trust. Are you ready for a change? His deep voice cut through the noise like a knife, leaving me breathless. Change? I could barely comprehend the question. A million thoughts raced through my mind. What did he see in me? How could a simple dishwashing girl turn into someone worth noticing? Would I grab this chance or let it slip away? The world around me faded, leaving just his expectant gaze locked onto mine. The weight of possibility hung thick in the air. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air was thick with tension as I stood in the kitchen, my mind racing with the chef's question. I could still hear the loud crash of the plates, the whispers of curiosity lingering like a ghost in the room. The bustling kitchen faded into the background, and all I could focus on was his eyes, deep pools of intensity that threatened to pull me under. Are you ready for a change? He repeated, his voice steady, yet tinged with urgency. Was I? My heart was torn. The thought of stepping out of the shadows, of escaping the chains of my mundane existence, ignited a flicker of hope within me. But could I leave everything behind? The safety of my predictable life, the solitude in my small apartment where every corner held memories of my mother? I struggled to find my voice, to sift through the tangled mess of emotions. Every instinct screamed at me to run. This was a man who lived in a world of opulence and glamour, one that seemed so out of reach. "I'm just a dishwasher," I finally muttered, a bitter taste of resignation coating my tongue. "That I see potential in you," he insisted, his gaze unwavering, as if he were staring straight into my soul. "Talent doesn't come from a title, it comes from within. I want you on my team, in the heart of the kitchen, not just scrubbing pots." His words wrapped around my heart, squeezing it tight. The allure of a new life was tantalizing, but the fear of failure loomed large. I had never seen myself as anything more than what I was, a girl with dreams seemingly destined to drown in endless shifts and soapy water. Why me? The question escaped my lips before I could stop myself. The noise of forks clattering and orders ringing in the background faded to a dull roar. "That I see something in your spirit," he said, a spark of conviction igniting his eyes. "It's raw and authentic. I've been searching for someone who can bring that heart to my kitchen. Trust me, it'll be hard work, but you could be part of something great." A part of me desired to leap at the chance, to embrace this unexpected opportunity. But a stronger part of me clung to the familiar chains of fear. What if I didn't belong? What if I let him down? What if I lost myself along the way? My heart raced with conflicting emotions, a dizzying whirlpool threatening to pull me under. In an ethereal moment, just as I was caught in his eyes, the kitchen erupted once again. An excited shout rang out. The head chef had returned with a tray of exquisite dishes for the evening's special event. The clattering of serving dishes and the excited whispers brought me back to reality. The chaos was never truly over. The millionaire chef's attention snapped away from me, aimed at the bustling brigade pulling themselves together. "Let's go, we have a dinner to serve," he called to his team, his voice booming with authority. I watched his silhouette disappear into the throng of activity. Did he really mean it? Could I leave behind the sink filled with water and the rubbery gloves I'd grown accustomed to? One by one, my colleagues went back to work, their laughter mingling with the clanking silverware, and I felt the lonely weight of indecision pressing down on me. Just then, Clara, a fellow dishwasher, leaned toward me, her eyes bright with curiosity. "What did he say?" I hesitated. She didn't need to know the truth. How a glance from a millionaire chef had sent my head spinning. "Oh, nothing much," I lied, forcing a smile, but the clench in my chest betrayed my facade. "Liar," she teased, but there was kindness in her gaze, and in that small moment, I felt a spark of something, a hint of friendship that had been missing. Perhaps it was that connection, the shared weight of our humble tasks, that reminded me I wasn't alone. Clara reached out and squeezed my shoulder. "Whatever you decide, just know you're more than you think you are." Her words, simple yet powerful, lingered in the air, igniting a flicker of courage in my heart. But before I could respond, the kitchen erupted into chaos again. Rushing footsteps and frantic orders echoed around me as the head chef staggered through the door, his face pale, a shaky breath escaping his lips. "We have a problem," he announced, his voice trembling with tension. "The main ingredient for tonight's special has been contaminated. We need a replacement fast or our diner overflows with complaints." Shockwaves rippled through the kitchen, and the atmosphere thickened with urgency. My heart sank as I glanced at the millionaire chef, noticing his fingers twitching slightly, uncertainty written on his face. He was no longer the confident figure I had seen moments ago. This wasn't just a setback, it felt like a turning point. How could I possibly step forward into this world of high stakes and quick decisions? I had never been in a position to make choices beyond the confines of clean dishes. And then there it was again, the pull, that tantalizing hint of possibility. What if I could help? What if I could prove that this timid girl had the potential to do more? And just as I took a shaky breath, preparing to volunteer, Clara snapped at my arm. "You can't. You're not ready for that yet." Her words felt like ice-cold water splashed on my lingering hope, but in that moment, the chef turned to me, his blue eyes burning with intensity. "What do you say? Can you help us?" I froze. Everything hinged on my answer, and I felt the weight of my entire world looming before me. What if this was my chance, and what if I failed? "Leave the dishes," a voice whispered in my heart, one louder than my insecurities. "You deserve a shot at this." With trembling hands and an anxious heart, I nodded. "I'll do it." And as I stepped toward the high-pressure chaos of the kitchen, ready to embrace the unknown, I hadn't realized that just behind the action unfolding was the quietly observing eye of someone who wasn't ready to let the past vanish without a fight. My old mentor had made a sudden appearance, and the shadows of the past were about to resurface. The cacophony of the kitchen enveloped me as urgency churned the air into a thick soup of adrenaline. I could feel the shift in the conversation, a pivot from the mundane to something electric, where destinies could alter with a single decision. "Are you sure?" the chef pressed, catching the flicker of hesitation in my eyes. His voice was a mix of skepticism and encouragement, a strange amalgamation that left me dizzy. "This is a high-stakes situation. You're stepping into the lion's den that I need to try." My voice faltered slightly, but the resolve behind it swelled like an unyielding tide. "Then grab that cutting board and let's go," he exclaimed, his passion igniting a fire within me. Suddenly, I wasn't just a girl lost in a sea of dishes. I was part of something, and the chaotic rhythm of the kitchen thrummed through my veins. As I maneuvered past flurry and fray, I located the pantry, a treasure trove of vegetables and spices. Heart racing, I scanned for what could work as a substitute for the ruined ingredient that would hold up the evening special. My hands moved quickly, instinctively selecting fresh basil and ripe tomatoes, the scent enveloping me with familiar comfort. "Great choice on the tomatoes," a voice chimed beside me. I turned to find Michael, an older line cook whose easy demeanor often masked his culinary genius. He offered me a reassuring smile that calmed the storm in my chest. "We can make a fantastic sauce with that. Just follow my lead." His confidence bolstered my confidence, and together we raced against the clock. I chopped, diced, and simmered, trying to absorb every ounce of knowledge he imparted while keeping the chaos at bay. Each slice of the knife against the cutting board felt like an incantation, a dismantling of my fears as I poured everything I had into creating something worthy. But just as I began to embrace the rhythm, something occurred at the edge of my peripheral vision, a shadow that lingered longer than it should. I paused mid-motion, glancing toward the entrance. My heart dropped. There stood my old mentor, Alice, a figure draped in elegance amidst the gritty backdrop of the bustling kitchen. Her presence was like a lighthouse in a tangled fog, illuminating paths that I had long thought buried. But every glimmer of nostalgia was accompanied by a crash of anxiety. What was she doing here? And how would she react, seeing me in the cusp of this chaos? "Don't stop." Michael's voice shook me from my reverie. "We're in the thick of it. Keep moving." Inhaling a shaky breath, I refocused on the task at hand. I couldn't let Alice's arrival shatter this moment of possibility. After a moment's hesitation, I stirred the bubbling sauce, extracting flavors to perfection, the coriander mingling warmly with the basil. Just as I felt a semblance of control, the server burst through the door. 5 minutes until service," she shouted over the clanging noise. A reminder that the clock was merciless, and our makeshift dish had to be ready and perfect. Things swirled faster. My movements grounded themselves in instinct as I ladled the sauce, vibrant and chunky, onto plates, my fingers trembling with determination. I shouted commands with newfound authority, directing teammates to garnish and plate, a harmony in the disarray. The moment we stepped toward the pass, my heart raced anew. It was one thing to create, it felt like double the gamble to present. Just as I set the first plate down, I caught Alice's gaze across the room. The years fell away in an instant, and the warmth in her eyes brought a rush of memories flooding back, of lessons shared beneath her guidance, of the day I let fear dictate my choices, opting to wash dishes instead of facing the kitchen's challenge. But she didn't look disappointed. Instead, there was an unease, as if she felt something important was slipping through her grasp. As the first plates emerged, the swell of anticipation rose, followed by an explosion of applause from the dining room. I beamed at Michael, a smile breaking across my face. This was it. I was here, standing where I had always wanted to be, feeling a joy I had thought was unreachable, but before I could bask in the moment, the sword of doubt cast its shadow again. Would Alice think I had betrayed everything she had taught me? Would she still see promise in me, or would she remember the girl who always stayed in the background, hiding from the spotlight? Just as my hopes threatened to spiral, a figure slipped through the crowd. "You think you can just waltz back in and take credit for what we built?" A sharp voice sliced through the air, spiraling my heart into a deep pit. It was Daniel, a rival cook from my past, his familiar disdain radiating like a chill I thought I had left behind. "You'll never belong in this world. You're just a dishwasher who got lucky." His words jabbed like daggers, aimed precisely at the insecurities I had fought so hard to overcome. A flicker of doubt sent ripples through the victory I intended to savor. In that moment, the kitchen erupted in applause from the guests, drowning out Daniel's toxic echoes. But I felt unsteady, quaking between past and present, nearly losing my footing on the road ahead. Then I caught a glimpse of Alice again, her expression unreadable yet insistent. A choice lay before me, as sharp as the knives we used: the chance to respond to Daniel's attack with strength or with retreat. "Not today," I whispered to myself, crafting my response from a deeper well of resilience. I straightened my shoulders, a fire igniting within me once more. But just then, the millionaire chef strode over, his presence commanding. "Did you just hear what that guy said?" His voice carried authority, the confidence feeling like a shield of armor as he turned to Daniel, eyes narrowing. "He's wrong, and you know it." The moment hung heavy, filled with unspoken truths. With a renewed sense of determination, I squared myself to face both men: a choice to embrace this new life, to reject cowardice, but I sensed a rift in the air, an impending truth veiled behind the noise. In a world of chaos, here I stood caught in the crossfire of my past bearing down upon me. And just when I thought I'd regained my footing, Alice stepped forward, her voice trembling yet fierce. "I need to talk to you about everything." As those words tumbled into the chaotic air, the kitchen fell eerily silent, all eyes on us, and my heart raced with the weight of the cliffhanger that stood before us. What did she mean? What had surfaced from the veil of yesterday, and would it change everything I had just begun to build? I stood there, frozen in time as the words hung between Alice and me, heavy with implications I dared not comprehend. The bustling kitchen fell silent, the aroma of my sauce threatening to turn stale in the stillness. All eyes were on us, and I felt the weight of curiosity and judgment pressing in. "Alice," I began, but she cut me off with an intensity that sent a shiver down my spine. "That I was hoping to talk to you privately," she insisted, her gaze fierce yet vulnerable, a juxtaposition that sent my heart racing. I glanced around the room, unsure of what I truly wanted in that moment. Was it to shield myself from the past, holding on to the thrill of my small triumph? Or was it to confront the whispers of doubt that Alice's presence unearthed? Michael appeared at my side, his expression a mix of bewilderment and encouragement. "Go ahead, I got this," he said with a nod, pushing me gently toward Alice. It was a lifeline I hadn't expected, yet desperately needed. Swallowing hard, I stepped away from the kitchen's fray, my heart drumming a rapid syncopation in response to the tremor of uncertainty. Alice led me to a quieter corner, the noise of the kitchen fading into muted swells. "I saw you in there," she began, her voice steadier now, unfurling like petals of a delicate flower. "You've grown so much. I never doubted your talents. It was your fear, your reluctance to embrace your own potential that held you back." That I flinched at her words, the truth stinging in a way that felt both illuminating and painful. "But I'm still scared. I'm scared I'm not enough, Alice. Look at me, I'm just me." She stepped closer, her presence a reassuring warmth amidst my turmoil. "You don't need to be anyone else. Your moment is here now, and I want you to seize it. But there's more you need to know." Her gaze lowered, a shadow briefly flickering across her features. "I didn't come back into your life just by coincidence. There are things you need to understand about the world you're stepping into." Just as I opened my mouth to ask more, Daniel's voice echoed from the kitchen. "What's going on over there? Get back to work." The grating volume almost jerked me back to the reality of my surroundings. Alice sighed, a mix of frustration and concern swirling on her face. "We can't talk here. I'll find you after service. please just think about what you want. You have a gift, and it will take more than just culinary skill to navigate this life." With that, she turned on her heel and slipped back into the chaos, leaving me staring at the bustling kitchen, now a cacophony of excitement and anxiety that I returned to my station, still reeling from our exchange. The applause for our successful service resonated in my ears. Victory seemed so close yet felt incredibly ephemeral. The energy hummed with the clattering of silverware, the satisfied murmurs of guests, but beneath that surface lay an undercurrent of unease coiling tightly around my chest. What more could Alice share? What was waiting just beyond the veil of our renewed connection? As I emerged from the private moment, decked in aprons and bravado, my heart skipped at the thought of Daniel lurking nearby, his sharp remarks cutting deeper than any knife in the kitchen. Every time I encountered him, the shadows from our history flared to life, the endless memory of competition slipping back like an old comfortable sweater, warm yet suffocating. The next few hours tumbled into a whirlwind infused with adrenaline, yet my mind couldn't help but drift back to Alice. She was both a mentor and a reminder of decisions I was terrified still lay ahead. The service came to an end, the last plate leaving the pass with a flourish, but the exhilaration I should have felt diminished as the weight of unspoken words clouded my essence. Just as I was cleaning up, the tension unraveled again when Daniel approached, that all too familiar smirk etched on his face. "So, back in the kitchen after your little celebration, you really think this is where you belong?" His challenge hung like an electric wire, grounding me with a precision that shocked. I couldn't help but stand taller, a gravitational pull towards defiance sparking within me. "You may want to watch where you tread, Daniel. I'm not going to back down anymore." His laughter echoed with condescension, but something flickered in his eyes, a hint of recognition, as if he understood that this time it wouldn't be the same. "Well, see about that." As he turned away, the icy remnants of his words danced in the air around me. I was torn between the thrill of defiance and the worry of the consequences looming over me. Then, as I gathered my composure amidst the chaos, my phone buzzed in my pocket, a jarring reminder that the outside world didn't cease to exist because I had stepped into the whirlwind of this kitchen. Pulling it out, I saw a notification flicker on the screen, a message from an unknown number. My heart tumbled into the pit of my stomach as I read it. "You have no idea what you're getting into. Meet me tonight if you want the truth about Alice." Darkness enveloped my thoughts. Who sent this? What truth about Alice? As thoughts whirled, I felt the room swirl around me, uncertainty coiling tighter around my chest. A choice lay before me, just as it always had, yet this time, I was aware that I might step into a storm much bigger than I had imagined. Would I dare face what awaited, or would I again let fear dictate my fate? And in that moment, I understood that whether it was fear or courage that led me forth, it wouldn't be long before everything I thought I knew would be put to the test. The hum of the kitchen was barely a memory as I stared at my phone, a sentry's glare boring into the message that taunted me. My heart raced, the lingering sense of sage and rosemary piercing through the fog of confusion enveloping me. An unknown sender had stirred a tempest in my thoughts, and I felt torn between the warm embrace of familiarity and the icy grip of the unknown. That I quickly pocketed my phone, the decision to ignore it palpable yet heavy in my gut. But what if it was true? What if Alice's return was just the beginning of something far more convoluted? One moment, she was my guiding light, the sweet taste of inspiration, and the next, she was a complex puzzle wrapped in layers I hadn't begun to unravel. As I meticulously washed the last of the pots, each clatter resonated against the fragile threads of my resolve. I could almost hear Daniel's mocking laughter seeping through the cracks, daring me to turn and face the chaos. Finally, my hands stopped moving, the water turning lukewarm and the steam fading into the air. I could almost feel Alice's fierce gaze urging me onward, urging me to confront what lurked beneath the surface. That I, in an effort to distract myself, I glanced around at my co-workers, each of them oblivious to the maelstrom within me. I saw Michael across the room, wiping down a counter with an easy smile. Despite my uncertainty, a flicker of hope ignited as I thought of the camaraderie we'd built over countless hours spent racing against the clock. I approached him, seeking a piece of light amidst my dark musings. "You've got this look like you've just seen a ghost," he remarked, wiping his hands on a cloth and leaning against the counter, his grin widening. Everything okay? I pondered the weight of my response, the multitude of layers wrapped around my heart. Should I confide in him? Would he even understand? It's just Alice is back, right? Michael nodded, a thoughtful expression creeping onto his face. Yeah, she's got a way of shaking things up, doesn't she? But hey, you've come a long way since then. You shouldn't let anyone overshadow you. My chest swelled with gratitude at his kind words, yet the uncertainty still crackled beneath the surface. What if what she has to say changes everything? History is complicated, and you know how much I've struggled to break free from it. He stepped closer, the sincerity in his eyes grounding me. Whatever she shares doesn't define you. Remember, your path isn't scripted. You're writing it every single day, and no one can take that from you. His perspective sliced through my self-imposed restraints, a reminder that my journey was mine to navigate. But as I debated my next move, the flicker of my phone ignited my anxiety again. Each second that ticked away sent pulses of dread through me, a reminder of the mysterious message lingering in the back of my mind. Hey, can I ask you something? I ventured, steeling my nerves against the barrage of uncertainty. What would you do if someone reached out with information about a friend, something that could change everything you thought you knew? Michael's playful demeanor shifted into a more serious tone, brow furrowing in thought. Depends on the friend and what the intel entails. But I think I'd want to know. Knowledge isn't something we should shy away from. His words echoed inside me, and I realized the importance of confronting what lay ahead rather than shying away from the inevitable. But before I could articulate my next thought, a familiar voice interrupted our conversation. Time to head out, Daniel announced, glancing back at me with a challenging glint in his eye. Unless you want to linger here and wash every dish we have, the taunt hung in the air. In my gut, I knew there was a teasing overtone, but the glimmer of competition stoked the embers of my resilience. Actually, I've got plans, I replied, matching his tone with unexpected defiance. His smirk widened, and as he walked away, I caught a glimpse of something deeper, a flicker of displeasure, perhaps uncertainty, crafted behind a mask of superiority. Departing from the kitchen. The crisp evening air wrapped around me like an embrace. I felt a mixture of exhilaration and trepidation as I navigated through the shadows of alleyways toward a bar where I agreed to meet the mysterious figure claiming to hold the truth about Alice. The building stood slightly apart from the lively bustle of the streets, flickering neon lights reflecting off the slick pavement. I paused for just a moment, my heart thudding loudly as though it were an entity of its own, pleading for me to reconsider. Each step I took felt weighty, heavy with potential consequences. As I entered the dimly lit bar, the murmur of conversation seeped into my thoughts. The bright colors of the cocktails contrasted sharply against the shadows lingering in the corners. I spotted a lone figure at the back, their silhouette shrouded in darkness. The chilling air breathed down my neck, and I shivered, a mix of fear and anticipation pulsing through me. Are you here for the truth? Came a voice, low and gravelly, as I made my way toward the table. I froze, the words tumbling like stones in my chest. Who are you? I managed, gripping the edge of the table for composure. You'll find out soon enough, the figure replied, lifting their head slightly, the dim light revealing a face I recognized from my past, one deeply intertwined with Alice. But first, you need to know that what you think you know about her, it's only the beginning. My breath caught in my throat as a chilling realization settled over me. Whatever lay ahead, the path was darker than I had imagined. How could one conversation ripple through the fabric of everything I thought I understood? Before I could conjure any words, they leaned in closer. Do you truly want the truth, or are you comfortable living in blissful ignorance? The weight of their question pressed down on my shoulders, overwhelming my senses. In that moment, clarity and uncertainty collided. A choice loomed ahead, one that would carve changes into the very essence of who I was meant to be, and as I faced the gathering storm, I knew there was no turning back. The dim light of the bar flickered as I ruminated on the weight of the stranger's words, each syllable reverberating through me like a drum. The shadowy figure leaned forward, their eyes piercing yet inscrutable. A shiver ran down my spine as I considered the implications of the truth they promised. Could I handle whatever reality awaited me, or was ignorance the easier path to tread? I want to know, I finally replied, my voice more resolute than I felt inside. Fear gripped my heart, but a whisper of courage surged within. If Alice was back, then so too would be the past I thought I had left behind. Then listen closely, the stranger said, leaning back in their seat, a cryptic smile playing at the corners of their lips. They recounted tales shrouded in mystery. Alice's life painted not in the light I remembered, but in hues of shadows, secrets, and regrets. I could hardly breathe, the air thickening with every revelation. You see, Alice hadn't simply vanished, she had escaped a life woven with threads of betrayal and deception. In my quest for understanding, I realized our lives had been inexplicably intertwined, her choices catalyzing the rocky terrain I had traversed for years. Each fact sent me spiraling deeper into a chasm of confusion, the fragile foundations of my memories crumbling beneath me. Why tell me this now? I found the courage to ask, clutching the edge of the table as if it were my only anchor. Because, they replied, their tone no longer a murmur, but a resounding statement. You deserve to know who you're dealing with. Alice is not the innocent figure you recall. There's a reason she's back, and it has everything to do with you. A cold sweat broke across my forehead as I replayed our past interactions, the moments that had once felt so benign now twisted into enigmas. What do you mean? What could she possibly want from me? The stranger leaned in, their eyes narrowing. A chance for redemption, something she lost the moment she walked away. But be warned, her past is part of your future now. Be prepared. As their words sank in, the weight of the evening pressed upon my heart like a longing I could not shake off. I could feel the universe unfurling around me, presenting paths I could never have envisioned before. The stranger's cryptic warnings filled my mind with warnings and doubts, intertwining threads of fear with tendrils of hope. Wait, I said, my mind racing. How do you know all this? Why now? They hesitated, the corner of their mouth quirking into a fleeting smile that hinted at something deeper. You're not the only one with a past, my friend. I lost someone to those shadows too. Sometimes, the truth is all we have left to fight back the darkness. In that moment, I felt an unexpected bond, a connection forged through shared suffering, though shrouded in mystery. But before I could ask for more, they stood, sliding a folded piece of paper across the table as they stood to leave. If you seek her, follow this. Just know, not every revelation leads to the closure we crave. The paper trembled in my hands, a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. As they departed, I caught the tantalizing glint of what might be a genuine intent behind their anonymity, but the fear lingered heavily like fog, draping around me. With trembling hands, I unfolded the paper and read the address scrawled across it, somewhere familiar and haunting, triggering a flood of memories buried beneath layers of time. I had to know if Alice could face the shards of her past, if we could weave together the tapestry that once seemed forever frayed. As I exited the bar into the brightness of the streetlights, an unexpected warmth bloomed in my chest, dispersing some of the dread. I felt the remnants of hope around its edges. If I could take this next step, I might stitch some of our fragmented lives back together, reflecting on the moments where joy once dwelled amidst chaos. But then, just as the weight of relief began to settle in, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket. The familiar chill spilled through me when I noticed the sender. It was a new message, not from the past I had faced for so long, but from Daniel. The words were blunt, cutting through the tender threads of my newfound resolve. I know what you're trying to do. Don't think you can outrun me. A sliver of fear pierced through my hope as I stared at the relentless screen. The fight was far from over, the darkness that pursued me had shifted, and I could almost hear its footsteps echoing in the distance. My heart raced again, pounding against the walls of uncertainty as the night closed in around me, and so, I stood at the cusp of choice, each path fraught with emotion and doubt, as unknown currents began to pull me back into a storm I thought I'd left behind. The journey had just begun, and with it came the realization that no matter how close we drew to the truth, shadows lingered just beyond the light. The cold air nipped at my skin as I stood frozen on the sidewalk, the glow from the streetlights illuminating the trembling hand clutching my phone. Daniel's message felt like a noose tightening around my chest. I was about to confront Alice, and now this looming threat from the past had clawed its way back into my life, darkening what could have been a moment of potential clarity. That I took a deep breath, summoning strength from within. Back hunched beneath the weight of uncertainty, I shoved my phone back into my pocket and started toward the address on the paper. Each step was heavy, my thoughts muddled with the confusion of what I would say to Alice, and whether she even wanted to see me again. The place I was headed to resembled a forgotten warehouse, the silhouette stark against the night sky. As I approached, old memories rushed back, a flood that swept over Mef's stolen glances, laughter shared in hushed whispers, and the day she walked away, leaving nothing but echoes. The desire to rewind time gnawed at me like a restless ghost. What would I say if I once again stood before her? Could I confront all the pain without sinking into the depths of despair? Pushing aside my swirling thoughts, I reached the door and let my hand hover for a moment before knocking. The sound echoed eerily, loneliness wrapping around me as I waited. The door creaked open slowly, revealing an empty hallway adorned with peeling paint and dust motes dancing in wisps of light. I hesitated, the damp air swallowing any hint of courage I had built, but then I heard Ida's soft voice drifting toward me, a sweet melody that was irrevocably hers. I stepped through the threshold, following the sound. Each footfall felt heavier as I ventured deeper into the unknown, the music pulling me irresistibly closer to her. The room opened up, revealing a makeshift studio bustling with life. Canvas after canvas littered the space, each illustrating fragments of Alice's psyche, a riot of colors, expressions, and chaotic strokes that both entranced and unsettled me. How had she become this? How had I missed it? I stood in awe, recognizing not only the art but the trials she must have faced to create such beauty and pain within these walls. Then I saw her, hunched over a canvas, paintbrush dancing between her fingers. She didn't notice my entrance, and for a moment, I allowed myself to drink in the sight of her, the wild curls that I had once playfully tugged, the intensity of her focus, and the way her laughter had the ability to lift the heaviness encasing my spirit. But a shadow marred the light I remembered. The distance in her posture spoke volumes of the history wrapped around us like an old, worn quilt full of cherished moments yet stitched together with scars. Alice. My voice broke the silence, and she spun around, her eyes widening in disbelief. For a heartbeat, we stood there, suspended in time, grappling with emotions colliding like waves crashing against shorelines. Joy flickered in her eyes, but just as quickly it faded, replaced by a mask of uncertainty. You shouldn't have come, she breathed, her voice barely a whisper. How could I not? I stepped closer, desperate for connection. I want to understand what? She interrupted, the sharpness of her tone cutting through the room. All this time, you've been living your life, and I am just a memory now. That's not true. I reached toward her, wanting to bridge the distance, but she recoiled slightly. I've changed too much for you to comprehend. Tears welled in her eyes, pain surging through me as I watched her wrestle with the turmoil inside. Please, just tell me. I need to know. I stepped forward again, but she turned away, her fingers trembling as they clutched the edge of the table. That I don't want to hurt you, she said, her voice cracking. You deserve a brighter future, and am nothing but a storm cloud. That I felt the familiar chill of despair wrap around me. We could face the storm together. You don't have to go through this alone. The silence between us thickened, and just as I opened my mouth to speak again, she turned back, the wildness of her eyes setting fire to her words. It's not that simple. Daniel's been looking for me. He won't let you help me. The name struck me like a dagger, leaving my heart quaking in disbelief. What does he want with you? The tension electrified the air, and I could see the storm brewing in her gaze, mirroring the tumult within me. He will do anything to ensure I don't reveal the truth. Everything I've done. It will change your life forever, she confessed, anguish spilling out in earnest. Wait, what truth? My heart pounded against my ribcage, every word weighed down by desperation and fear, her lips pressed tightly together, wavering dangerously on the brink of revelation. If I tell you, then you're in danger too. A sharp intake of breath left my lungs, the reality of her words washing over me. Understanding cloaked in dread enveloped me. It was a heavy mantle to bear, but I have to know, I said softly, stepping closer despite the fierce unease growing between us. We can face it together, Alice. We can figure this out. But the fire in her gaze dimmed, and she looked away, as if retreating from the promise of hope. We stood together in this space, yet miles apart, bound by shadows that would not easily dissipate. Please, please don't shut me out, I pleaded, desperation fueling my words. Before she could respond, a loud knock at the door shook us both from our moment. Our eyes locked, gooseflesh raised on my arms as uncertainty lingered in the air. Alice, are you in there? The voice belonged to Daniel, low and clearly agitated, each syllable a chilling reminder of the darkness encroaching upon us. That I could see her face drain of color, the mask of her fear falling away, replaced by the stark reality we now faced. You have to go, a decision has to be made, and it can't include him, she whispered urgently, her voice trembling as dread seeped into the space between us. With a pounding heart and uncertainty nestling itself deep within my chest, I took a step toward the door. Shadows from my past were closing in while the hope of our reunion began to slip away. How could I protect Alice, and us both, from the very truth that could tear us apart forever? As I reached for the door handle, my own resolve thick like molasses, the silence screamed around us, a precarious balance teetering on the edge of an impending storm that could either tear us apart or somehow unite our fractured hearts once more. The door swung open abruptly, revealing Daniel standing there, the ambient light from the hallway casting harsh shadows across his face. His expression, a mix of surprise and something darker, set the rhythm of my heart racing. Alice. His voice was deceptively calm, but the underlying tension was palpable, like the drawn string of a bow ready to release an arrow. Daniel's gaze flicked from her to me, assessing, calculating. I thought I'd find you here. Alice didn't invite you, I said, my voice gaining strength from the whirlwind of emotion swelling inside me. Vulnerability mingled with defiance as I stepped forward protectively, placing myself between him and her. Back off, man, he warned, taking a step inside, the warmth of his presence flooding the chilly room. You have no idea what you're getting into. A flash of uncertainty crossed Alice's face, and I turned to her, desperate for reassurance. What do you want? I demanded, grappling with the surge of anxiety threatening to engulf me. Daniel shrugged, feigning nonchalance. Just checking on my friend. Inspirational artist, remember? His sarcasm dripped like poison, tainting the very air we breathed. No, this isn't some twisted game, Alice interjected, her voice almost a whisper, trembling but resolute. You know exactly what this is about. Daniel took a step closer to her, his eyes narrowing dangerously. You don't want to do this, Alice. You have no backup plan for what happens next. Maybe it's you who don't want to do this, I argued, clenching my fists at my sides. Uncertainty ricocheted within me. I had no idea how deep Daniel's reach extended into Alice's life or what authority he held over her choices. How sweet, he responded, mockery dripping from every syllable. But heroic gestures won't protect her from the consequences of her past. Enough. Alice shouted suddenly, her voice echoing off the walls like a fierce wind sweeping over desolate land. The intensity of her reaction stunned both of us into silence. A wall of damage built up over years was being stripped bare. You can't scare me anymore, Daniel. The truth is coming out, with or without you. The air thickened with unspoken words, the weight of them pressing heavily on my chest. Alice, I started, not entirely sure what I wanted to say, when Daniel's hand shot out, grabbing the paintbrush off the table and throwing it against the wall. It exploded, splattering vibrant colors like fragments of shattered dreams. Stop using art as your escape. He shouted, his voice reverberating in the oppressive silence that followed. She's hiding from herself, from us. My heart sank as I turned to her, searching for any sign of the girl I once knew, the playful spark, the humor we had shared, the dreams we had concocted beneath the stars. Gone were the light-hearted moments, in their place loomed shadows that whispered of betrayal, deceit, and fear. Alice, please, I said gently. You don't have to hide. Not from him, and not from me, she blinked back, tears, her resolve faltering. You don't understand. There are things you don't know, things that could put you in danger. Then tell me, Alice. My voice cracked, desperation firing my words. Make me understand. Daniel stepped forward, throwing a menacing glance at me. This isn't a movie. People get hurt when the past comes back. I'd tread carefully if I were you. I pushed against the mounting anxiety invading my mind, refusing to back down. Not now, not when hope flickered like a dying ember. You can't control her anymore, I declared, my eyes darting between them. And I won't let you silence her. She stepped toward me, the fear that once clouded her expression sharpened into something sharper, clearer. I want to fight this. But it's not just me. It's our friends. Everyone we cared about is in danger too. Suddenly, a crack of realization hit me. The truth. Is it about the accident? Her gaze wavered, caught in a cyclone of guilt and acknowledgement. Yes, she whispered, her voice barely audible over the chaos swirling around us. What happened was it was a mistake. But it was a mistake that someone is willing to kill for. The weight of her words crashed into me, and the room felt smaller, suffocating. And Daniel is part of that? Before she could respond, Daniel interrupted, his rage resurfacing. Enough of this. You're playing a dangerous game, Alice. You need to decide whose side you're on. As the tension between them thickened, Alice turned to me, her eyes pleading. You have to go. For your safety. No, I shook my head passionately, taking a step closer. I'm not leaving you. We can figure this out together, I promise. But before she could respond, there was a loud crash from outside, followed by ominous silence. Our eyes shot to the door, the reality of our situation crashing in like a tidal wave. What was that? I asked, heart racing anew. I don't know, Daniel muttered, suddenly cautious, but a glimmer of fear flickered in his eyes. Alice's grip tightened on my arm. They're here. They found me. In a single, defiant moment, the space we had been circling tightened, bringing us face to face with the storm brewing both outside and within. The choices we made had just begun their descent into chaos, the very fabric of our lives pulling taut. And as the world outside began to unravel, I could feel the shadows from our past extend their cold fingers into the dappled light of our hope, threatening to drown us in despair. This isn't over, I whispered, but even I wasn't sure if I was trying to convince her or myself. The crashing sound lingered in the air, heavy and foreboding. My heart raced in tandem with the relentless echo of anxiety clawing at my senses. Alice's grip on my arm tightened, and the warmth of her touch felt like an anchor in a turbulent sea. Yet, in the shadows cast by our fears, we teetered on the precipice of a truth that could shatter everything we knew. We need to get out of here, Daniel said, his bravado cracking as trepidation edged into his voice. The sudden shift in his demeanor was unwelcome. Was he truly afraid, or merely aware of his dwindling power? Alice shook her head, her determination hardening once more. No. I won't run away anymore. If they're here, then we need to face this. But what if? I started, glancing toward the door where shadows danced like ghosts in a flickering candlelight. The vague threat from outside grew more substantial with every heartbeat, fanning the flames of my fear. The truth will come out eventually, regardless of what happens, she interrupted, her tone resolute. I refuse to hide any longer. With that, she moved toward a window, peering through the grime-laden glass, her silhouette illuminated by a rush of fading light. My chest tightened as I wondered what demons lurked just beyond the veil. Suddenly, she turned back to us. Look, she said, her voice barely above a whisper but carrying a weight of intention I hadn't noticed before. I need you both to promise me if anything happens, you'll stick together. Don't let anyone tear you apart. Not the past, not him, not anything. I opened my mouth to protest, to insist she needed us more than ever, but the words caught in my throat as Daniel spoke up. You're right. You can't go back now. Why are you helping? I spat, incredulous. Because, for what it's worth, I can't stand the thought of losing anyone else to this. Not you, not her, not the people we cared about. Daniel's facade cracked. I saw a flicker of vulnerability that felt like an apology layered beneath a veil of bravado. Alice stepped between us, her voice commanding. "We don't have the luxury of trust, Daniel. But we need a plan." For a moment, silence enveloped us like a thick fog, and I could almost feel the weight of our shared uncertainty. Then, from outside, we heard a faint rustling, the whisper that beckoned towards chaos. "They're getting closer," I murmured, my chest constricting. "Right," Daniel said, shaking off the emotional heaviness, replacing it with urgency. "We should find my car. It's parked a block away." Then Alice brought her gaze back to me, her eyes shimmering with a powerful resolve that ignited hope within my chest. "You stick with me, okay? We can't get separated." I nodded, feeling the warmth of her trust morph into a shield against the uncertainty threatening to engulf us. "Follow me," Daniel urged, leading the way. The three of us moved toward the door, each step amplifying the thrum of fear that coursed through our veins. I couldn't help but sneak a glance back at our haven, which now felt as fragile as spun glass. Bursting out into the evening light, we were met with the infinity of shadows stretching into the dusk. The chill of the night air enveloped us, but it was overshadowed by a creeping sensation derived from the path up ahead. We hurriedly made our way down the street, the sound of our footsteps swallowed by the quiet stillness that surrounded us. "Over there." Daniel suddenly pointed toward a vehicle roughly hewn from the darkness. The light from the street lamp glinted off the car's polished surface, though it did little to brighten the dread pooling in my gut. As we approached, I noticed the shadows seemed to thicken around us, almost alive, cunning eyes watching our every move while whispers echoed faintly in the air. I felt the pull of something deep within me, an instinctual warning that the reprieve we sought was already slipping from our grasp. Suddenly, from the boiling mud of uncertainty, Alice uttered a breathless gasp. "Someone is here." The sudden swipe of fear cut through me like a cold blade, and at that moment, Daniel whirled around, eyes wide. "What do you mean?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I saw someone in the alley, someone I recognize." "Who?" I questioned, searching her face for clues, though I already dreaded the answer. Alice's breath hitched, her expression a tempest of emotions. "It's Thomas, my brother." A silence fell, heavy and pregnant with implications. My mind spun, grappling with her words. I had never met Alice's brother, but the air shivered with familiarity. Thomas was part of the accidents we had all tried to put behind us. The haunting threads of the past entwined around us, drawing tighter with every passing second. "Alice, are you sure?" Daniel stepped back, alarm flickering across his face. But just as she opened her mouth to respond, a piercing scream sliced through the silence, a familiar sound that sent icy dread rushing down my spine. "Run!" I shouted, adrenaline propelling us into motion, the shadows behind us pulsating with sinister energy. We took off, not daring to look back, the specter of everything we had tried to escape clawing at our heels. The weight of the truth loomed like a storm on the horizon, and as we darted through the darkened streets, I held onto the fragile thread of hope that we wouldn't lose each other in the chaos waiting just beyond the night. But as we fled into the heart of uncertainty, it felt like every choice we made reinforced the walls of a cage, holding us prisoner to a past we'd never truly escaped. The air was electric as we sprinted through the dimly lit streets, the shadows of our fears weaving tightly around us. Alice's words haunted me. Thomas had always been a ghost shadowing her past, embodying the bleed of regret and betrayal between us. How could this night unravel in such complexity, with secrets that threatened to crush us before we even had a chance to breathe? "Alice, talk to me," I yelled over the rush of adrenaline surging through my veins. The sound of our frantic footsteps echoed under the streetlights, a rhythm of urgency and hope. Her expression flickered with a mix of fear and resolve. "He's tied to all of this," she gasped, her voice barely escaping her lips. "If he's here, then it means they've found me. Then we'll find him first." Daniel shouted, his determination illuminating the murky labyrinth of our situation. "He's your brother, he has to know where you stand." "Or where he stands within this nightmare," Alice countered, her eyes wide and glistening with unacknowledged dread. "He's been caught up in the chaos I tried to escape." In that moment, fear nipped at my heels, an unwelcome specter dancing alongside us. The ties that bound us felt fragile, barely holding together as we skirted past dark alleys and familiar corners twisted by the haze of uncertainty. But I could feel Alice's energy surge, a thread of warmth coursing between us, igniting a spark I couldn't resist. It grounded me, tethering me to the reality of our situation and reminding me of the fragility resting on the precipice of our choices. That we rounded a corner, the momentum pushing us forward, adrenaline mingling with the thickening shadows. An unyielding resolve lingered in my chest, and I felt the weight of the situation force my heart to race faster. I could see the contours of fear morphing into determination upon Alice's features. We would confront this together. Suddenly, Alice skidded to a halt, her breath hitching, and I was almost thrown off balance. "There!" she breathed, pointing towards a flickering street lamp where a figure huddled against the wall, half concealed in darkness, a silhouette that felt undeniably familiar. "Thomas!" she called, trepidation lacing her voice as she moved forward, a pulse of vulnerability cracking through her facade. "Thomas!" The desperation of her cry sent shivers through the air, setting the stage for a reunion bold enough to shift the very ground beneath our feet. "Get back!" Daniel shouted, stepping protectively in front of her. The tension was palpable, every heartbeat echoing the precariousness of the moment, but as Thomas stepped forward, caught in the light's chill embrace, I saw the sadness etched in his features, each line a testament to the burden he bore. "Alice," he began, his voice softer than I had expected. "I didn't mean for you to find out like this." "Find out what?" Alice demanded, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and relief. "You've been in hiding, and they're coming for me. For us." "Why?" The shadows deepened around us as confusion morphed into disclosure. "I didn't want to drag you further into this," Thomas replied, every word delicate yet heavy with consequence. "But you're right. They found a way to track our family's legacy, and I had to protect you." "By hiding?" Daniel interjected, skepticism burrowing into his tone. "Hiding doesn't work, you know that." Thomas looked at him, recognizing the weight of history drawn between them. "It's complicated. They wanted to make sure you never crossed paths again." The tension in the air rippled, hot and cold, unwilling to yield. Finally, Alice took another step closer, her voice small yet strong. "What do we need to do? How do we fix this?" Thomas' eyes flickered, wrestling with shadows of resolution and despair. "There's a meeting tonight. I was supposed to go. They think I've got the information they want. But it's also a trap for you." Each word he spoke was fire, igniting the kindling of fear deep within me. "You can't go, Thomas. They'll catch you." My protest slipped through the cracks as I felt helplessity seep into the marrow of my bones. "They'll always come after you, Alice. They won't stop until they get what they're after," he whispered, desperation hanging in the air like a noose. "This isn't just about us anymore. You need to go." Alice's voice rose with passion and urgency, begging him to understand the gravity of stepping back into fire. But the moment hung thick with unaddressed tension, and just as I thought Thomas would agree, a distant siren pierced through the frail threads of our resolve, snapping like thin glass. "They're already here," he said, eyes widening in terror. "We have no time." "Then we create a diversion," Daniel suggested, a wicked grin refusing to acknowledge the looming doom. "What are you talking about?" Alice asked, confusion weaving through her thoughts. "It'll give us time to figure this mess out while they're distracted. If they think Thomas is still with us." He let the thought dangle unspoken in the air. Anxiety rippled through me. This was no longer just about fear escaping our lips, but rather about acting swiftly. "Okay, let's do it." Alice glanced between us, confident determination dancing alongside uncertainty. "What's our play?" Daniel's expression hardened as he formulated a plan. "Well, create a noise far enough away to lure them. But you need to trust me," he added, looking intensely at Alice. "That I don't need anyone telling me to trust," she replied, her voice steadier than before. "I'm tired of running. I choose to face whatever truth we have before us." "It'll make them think I'm leading them away," Thomas added, leaping into action. "You two need to get to safety. I can buy you some time." "Not happening." I insisted, shaking my head wildly. We stick together through this. No. Thomas shot back, desperation cracking the surface of urgency in his voice. You'll be compromised if you come with me. You both are my priority. Fear gripped my heart while doubt blurred the edges of my thoughts. I could see the pain in Alice's eyes, the weight of family tugging at her heartstrings. But this was our moment. A chance to reclaim everything we had lost. Let's go, I urged, sensing time slipping like grains of sand through an hourglass. Without another word, I ushered Alice away from the alley, glancing toward Thomas, his silhouette imprinted against our chaotic resolve. Just as we turned to leave, a couple of figures emerged from the shadows, dark menacing bodies breaking through the fabric of our plans. They've found us. I screamed, adrenaline surging, pooling in the base of my spine. Run. Alice shouted, her fear morphing into fierce defiance as she grabbed my hand, leading us back into the embrace of night. Behind us, I heard shouting, the sound of footsteps pounding against the pavement, melding into an overwhelming chorus of uncertainty echoing in my chest. We dashed through the streets, our bodies weaving in and out of fluorescent lights, the adrenaline sparking brilliance despite our looming despair. Each breath propelled us forward, gnawing at the edges of disbelief that enveloped our world. Together, we would face whatever lay ahead no matter the cost, but somewhere, in the chaos cascading around us, I felt something shift deep within. The knowledge that we were forging bonds in this storm, the breaking of barriers, a flickering light in our grasp, each step sewing the threads of our fragmented lives together once more. Whatever awaited us would not extinguish our resolve. We owed it to ourselves, to face the storm and emerge whole again. Hours later, after what felt like days lost in darkness, I found myself back inside the comfort of my apartment, the muted quiet wrapping around me, but I knew it was a facade. The radio in the kitchen played soft music, but my heart thrummed a restless rhythm against my ribcage, as if picking up where the chaos left off. Alice sat on the edge of my couch, the weight of exhaustion casting a shadow on her features. We moved through the motions of recovery in silence, but beneath the surface, things simmered, a universe of unspoken truths that sat heavy between us. Do you think they'll come for us? She finally asked, her voice fragile yet steady, as if grappling with the very weight of our realities. That I don't know, I admitted, my voice hoarse. But we'll face them together. We've come too far. It's just everything feels heavy, she replied, her gaze dropping to the floor, as if trying to weigh the scattered pieces of her psyche that had once been broken. Understandably so, I said, inching closer to her. What we're facing is daunting, but I believe we can navigate these waters as long as we don't shy away from the truth. What if the truth changes everything? I took a deep breath, steadying my heart against the tide of uncertainty that floated between us. Then we can choose how to respond. We can confront our pasts head-on, creating a future designed from our own intentions instead of fear. With words swaying between us, I felt something akin to hope, the spark of resilience reigniting within the embers of shared understanding. As her gaze lifted to meet mine, I saw the flicker of flame that once lit our way. Thank you, she whispered, and within that fragile acknowledgement, we discovered the light we had been searching for amid the shadows. A promise to understand the roots of our past while forging ahead with courage. Suddenly, a loud knock echoed from the door, reverberating through the stillness and drawing our hearts to their wildest pace. Déjà vu creeping across my senses. We locked eyes, an urgent plea lingering in the air. Who could that be? I questioned, instinctively rising from the couch. Stay back, Alice urged, the tension thickening as she shifted toward the door. My heart pounded against the remnants of our fragile peace, but there was no backing down. We can't hide. Not anymore. I moved forward, stepping beside her as I slowly reached for the door, the fragile uncertainty pulsing in tandem with the chaos surrounding us. When I pulled it open, the jarring light spilled into the room, illuminating a familiar face. Thomas, I breathed, confusion clouding my judgment as our eyes locked. He stood there, breathless and frantic, his gaze swept over Alice and then zeroed back on me. Did I need to warn you? He gasped, the urgency spiking in the air once more. They're coming for both of you. We don't have much time. My heart dropped, every worry wet harbored, twisted into knots of fear. But within those knots lay a promise, We would no longer evade, no longer bow in fear, but rather face the storm lurking inches from our door. As I looked back at Alice, a fierce determination blossomed within me. Together, we would weather whatever tempest awaited us. Together, we would uncover the truth and carve our own destinies from the ruins of our past. Whatever happens, we'll face it together, I murmured, threading our fates into one shared heart, and just like that, the bittersweet echo of our past faded behind us, no longer haunting, but shaping a brave new path ahead, unafraid of the powerful waves crashing around us. Our journey had only just begun, a fierce declaration against despair. And no matter how tumultuous the storm, we would rise from the shadows, ready to embrace the light.